Ask the Podcast Coach for November 11th, 2023.
Let's get ready to podcast.
There it is. It's live from the School of Podcasting Studios. It's Saturday morning. It's time for Ask the Podcast Coach, where you get your podcast questions answered live. I am Dave Jackson from the School of Podcasting.com, and joining me right over there is the one and only Jim Cullison from theaverageguy.tv. Jim, how's it going, buddy?
Greetings, Dave. Happy Saturday morning to you. Happy Veterans Day. It doesn't often land on today, but November 11th is Veterans Day. And for all the veterans listening, thanks for your service.
Yeah, including you. There you go.
Including me.
Yeah. And I believe it was either, I'm 90% sure it's today, is my niece's birthday. So in some strange way, Emily, if you're watching this, happy birthday. She is down in North Carolina, Georgia, something. She was in Florida. She used to work
If she is watching this, we need to get her a couple hobbies or something.
She's into 20-something. I should know this.
All right. Okay.
But she's into role playing. Like, she goes to all these festivals where people have kilts and and she's a very skilled graphic artist. So
nice.
But it gets a little cold to be wearing a kilt right now. And of course, one way you could avoid, that's it. A little steamy cup of Java. There we go. And you know what? You could do hot cocoa,
coffee.
but coffee, you can't beat it. So that awesome coffee pour is brought to you by our good friend Mark over at Podcast Branding. There we go. .co. If you need artwork, if you need a PDF, if you need a whole stinking website, well, holy cow, where are you going to go? Podcastbranding.co. Why do you want to use Mark? Well, number one, he's Canadian and he's very polite. But other than that, he's going to sit down with you one-on-one and make sure that everything is in alignment. He's going to kind of check out the vibe of your show and then create artwork based on your input as well, obviously, to really match what's going on. So everything's in sync. And you're just going to end up with the maximum impact for your audience, because you got to remember, they're going to see you before they hear you. And Mark also is a podcaster. So he's an award-winning graphic artist and he's a podcaster. And so you don't have to explain, well, it's kind of like a radio show, but no. So he's going to get you going in the right direction. You're going to be thrilled with your artwork because he's not going to stop until you're happy. So check him out, podcastbranding.co.
Of course, big thanks to our good friend. Friend? How about that?
He's our friend.
Where did that come from? Dan Lefebvre. Maybe I was trying to say his name and friend at the same time. Dan Lefebvre over there, based on a true story podcast.com. And I think they just covered Chaplin. So if you haven't seen that yet, or maybe you have seen it, you want to see how much it's based on a true story, check it out now, based on a true story podcast.com. Dan sent me a nice note. Dave, go full screen for me, would you? Not full screen, but bring us back to the
we'll just go
show.
you.
There we go. Dan sent me this based on a true story. Let's see if I get the light
there
in.
You go.
Coaster for the mug. He had these coasters made for his podcast, and he sent me one with a nice little thank you note. So, Dan, thanks for the gift. It will now sit on the desk. And of course, the awesome mug, which also doubles as a beer stein sometimes because it keeps your beer cold too, based on a true story podcast.com. Dan, thanks for your sponsorship.
Speaking of coasters, it's not quite as cool as Dan's.
Go back to the.
I'm trying to go back to me.
Okay.
If you become an awesome supporter, you get one of these. And I was very.
What are one of those for the audio folks?
This is. Oh, thank you very much. It is a black coaster with the Ask the Podcast Coach logo on it, and it says awesome supporter on it. And so it makes you official. And I sent a thing out to the awesome supporters and said, hey, if you want one of these, I'll mail it to you no matter where you are. And Mark from podcastbranding.co said, I'll take one. And what's fun is I signed one and then sent him another one. So I still have Mark's signed coaster. It's, it's like, well done. So
maybe give it to him the next time you see him.
Yeah, that's
Maybe
it.
That'll be
I'll give him a second one. Yeah. So, that's courtesy of, I don't know where Dan got his. Mine is from Sticker Mule. And Sticker Mule has some really cool stuff. I've gotten T-shirts from them, but now you could actually get a yard sign. Like, nothing fancy, your typical metal bracket with, you could have your logo and a website. Stick that in your front yard. Or they're not, I think it's $60 for like 10. But, if you had a bunch of people, if I was doing a local podcast, which I kind of am, I'm really tempted to order a bunch of these and then go downtown Akron and just akronpodcast.com, just paste them there and see how long it takes for the police to, remove them or something like that. So,
Yeah.
yeah,
that would be nothing would say egg my house than a podcasting
yes,
sign.
yeah,
That doesn't happen very much anymore. It seemed like when we were kids, when you and I were kids, TP,
yeah.
egged, right? Those were the two things. I haven't, maybe people are just more afraid.
Yeah, that's
today
it. Too many people with
they,
guns. Yeah.
well,
Yeah. My, I can't remember if I TP'd. I think I did TP somebody's house. The egg thing was kind of like, that's now you've gone too far. But I do remember just you'd wake up and you're like, oh, Johnson's got TP'd. It's just a
I haven't
thing.
seen a TP and now maybe I don't live in the right part of town or whatever, but
Right.
I haven't seen somebody's house get TP'd in a long time.
A long
That's
time.
That's toilet paper for our friends overseas.
Yeah.
You would get you maybe get too big. Well, maybe during the pandemic and when toilet paper got so expensive and so rare, maybe that just stopped the collective. Like, why would we waste so much money on throwing that over somebody's house?
And usually this was done by 13 to 16-year-old, people who are now, that would require them to put down their joystick or their game controller, and
the football players would get their house TP'd the night before a big game. The cheerleaders would go out and they would and then put signs, whatever. So yeah, that just doesn't seem. I don't know. Like I said, maybe I don't live in the right neighborhoods. Dan, by the way, said he got this on Etsy. So he had these made from somebody in Turkey on Etsy. It's nice. It's a nice, like it's stitched, and then I imagine it's some kind of pressed like leather or faux leather or something like that. It's really
nice.
It's very beautiful. It is beautiful, Dan. Good work.
It's fun when you get the creative people involved. Jeff says we used to put instant mashed potatoes in yards and hit it with the water hose.
Yep.
That's his.
And that was actually not too bad because it would biodegrade, right? It would just go eventually. It would just go away. It wouldn't hurt the lawn. Wouldn't do anything like that.
And if you were hungry, nobody's looking. 5-second rule. Yeah, exactly.
Me in Phoenix. In Phoenix, it's so hot you could just.
Chris Nessie says Sticker Mule is only cool when they send you a deal, which they do on a regular basis. Never pay full price to them. Yeah, anytime they're like, hey, T-shirts are free shipping and they're $15. They're normally 20. And it was like, so here's a thought. I listened to this. See, I don't want to do the School of Podcasting. I want to talk about this on this week's episode. There's a documentary called Worst to First, and it talks about Z100 in New York City. They were absolutely the worst station. They were ranked 51st, and they ended up going to the first. Like they took over first place. And one of the things they did is they just asked their audience, like, hey, if you make a cardboard sign and put it in your car, I listen to Z100. If we find you, we will give you a T-shirt. And I was like, that's pretty cool. And they said that like people were literally like, it's in Brooklyn, like you got all these tall buildings, and people would like on a sheet just spray paint Z100 and hang it out the window and all sorts of stuff just to get their. And I was like, that's a cool idea. And I was like, oh, that's right. They had sponsors. They had a budget. Because if you start buying $20, $15 T-shirts for everybody, that could get pricey.
Yeah, but you could approach a sponsor with that idea and say, hey, look, I'm getting ready to do this. We'll partner with you, and this will get on a T-shirt, and we'll give these T-shirts out for a national brand. That may work. They may be some restrictions as far as like a U.S. audience only or whatever, but that it'd be a good way to get them to pay for most of it or part of it is say, hey, you're on the back or you're on the front, and I'll be on the back, whatever, right? A type deal.
Not a bad idea. I like that. Hey, how I never say anything nice about Spotify?
Oh, not lately, anyways.
Not
Yes.
lately, yes. Well, it turns out they've done something, and I just checked it out. Spotify, if you're a paid member, now has added tons of audiobooks. Because, we're all dying to read or listen to The Woman in Me by Britney Spears. There was one from Arnold, Arnold Schwarzenegger. Like, I have to say Schwarzenegger. There's only one Arnold. My favorite is first, it's Arnold doing his Arnold thing. And
Yeah.
apparently he has like a
He's
dog.
reading it?
He's reading
it?
it in his
Oh my God.
house, and he's like, "Let me explain up front that if my pig, he's got a pig and a donkey, and apparently he's living in a barn, and he's like, so if you hear these outside noises, that's what is the pig." And I was like, "What?
Get out. Get out. Get out now.
Get to
out.
the chopper!" Yeah, exactly. I was like, so there's something. So because I use this is not available everywhere. I don't know if it's just an Ohio thing. Do you know, Jim, from your library, the ability to check out audiobooks from your library?
Oh, for sure.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because we have a thing here called Hoopla Digital. And I have almost canceled my Audible account multiple times because 9 times out of 10, the book I'm going to use my credit on, because I always have that, is this credit worthy kind of thing going on with Audible? And I'll go over to Hoopla Digital, I'm like, oh, there it is. Like I just listened to it's Everybody Has a Podcast But You. And have you ever heard of My Brother and Me? And I can never say their last name right. It's McElroy, something.
McElroy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And there's 3 brothers, and they're really, really popular. And they had this audio book, and I was like going to get it on, the I was going to get it on the Audible, and I saw it and I got it for free. They had an interesting thing tying it back to the merchandise thing. And everybody's going to run and do this with Mark, and Mark's going to be like, no. But they said, first of all, pay somebody to make the T-shirt graphic because, you want it to be cool. And I was like, that makes sense. And they said, what you should do is pay the person a decent fee, but then give him a royalty or her a royalty.
Oh, yeah.
And I was like, that's not a bad idea. They said, because in some cases you'll end up, it said Mark's going to be like, do I get a royalty for every School of Podcasting person that signs up now? But I was like, it's an interesting idea if you want. He goes, and they then took it into if it's one of your audience members. And I was like, ooh, that can make it even better. Now you've got community involvement. You've got somebody that we're assuming is somehow graphic talented, and you get kind of an incentive to, hey, here's why you should send in a graphic because we'll give you some sort of royalty for that. So
Yeah, it's always worth the ask. They can just
Yeah.
say, "Nah, we're not really interested in that."
Well,
But you could ask and see what they might be interested in doing, or are there other ways to promote both sides on this? You have the eyeballs, and if they are open for the business, then maybe you can strike a deal.
yeah, Daniel's mentioning that Hoopla is also Overdrive is also Libby. They're all ways to get audiobooks from that. And then he says, when I manage to get free credits for Audible, I almost never know what to buy since I can get so much of that from the library. Yeah, that's I did see where Henry Winkler, for those of you that are under 30, he was the Fonz. Yeah. He's got a new audiobook out. So that was the one I went, and that one had a $20 price tag. And I was like, oh, that's one I'll be getting on that. Here's a fun Fonzie tangent. He was on the local station, and I know a guy, Matt Rafferty, who does the Author Inside You, works there. He got to meet the Fonz. I'm like, oh, dude, color me jealous. And but according to Henry Winkler, he never, because they reunited him with the original motorcycle from Happy Days. And Henry's like, I rode this once. It went about 5 feet and I dumped it. He goes, I don't ride motorcycles. He's like, so if you ever see me, he goes, that's not really me. It's like somebody else in a leather jacket with sunglasses on. I was like, I'll have to check that out. He goes, I don't ride motorcycles. And I was like, wow, my, my illusion has been shattered.
Yeah,
So,
he's not as cool. And
He's
now
not
that you know him older, I
Oh, yeah.
mean, he was really acting for the Fonzie. Like, he is a nice, goofy
Oh, yeah.
kind of guy. And that cool image that's not his, I don't think that's his normal. So he was really, really, really acting for that role. Doesn't surprise me he doesn't ride a motorcycle.
Yeah. And the other thing, I have a bunch of tools and stuff that I wanted to to point out today. So I'm waiting for the website to load in the background, and then I'll share my screen because I want to see if you come to the same conclusion that I do. And it's literally, oh, here we go. I already have it. Silly me. I did show prep. I was like, I really want to do this.
What?
I know.
Well,
Okay, so
the
if we,
show's going to be terrible now.
okay, so yes. So what we're going to do here, Jim, is it's called Trailergram. Helps you discover and retain new audiences. You can schedule a demo, and what they do is they put your, we advertise your podcast trailer next to relevant content on our reputable publisher ad network consisting of over 10,000 trusted publishers such as Yahoo, CNN, ESPN, People, WebMD, etc. And they have a little picture here on the right where it's People's website, and you got this little button on the right where you can click and play. And I'm like, oh, that's interesting. Okay. And then they talk about you can get push notifications and let people know when you have a new episode out. It's like, well, that sounds interesting. And so then the fun part was when I started looking into this. So first things first, when you get down to the pricing, it's $500 a month for 15,000 trailer plays. So if you go more than that, I guess you got to pay $1,000 and 5,000 push notifications. And I was thinking, So then you get down to the frequently asked questions. And I was like, well, let's see here. So when I said, do all trailer plays show up in my podcast hosting platform? And it says, we use our custom player by utilizing an MP3 file you upload into the Trailergram platform. Since this is a custom MP3 trailer plays do not display in your hosting platform. So, it's not sending people the listens of your episodes resulting from the trailer plays, however, do. So, okay, that's kind of interesting because then they control the original file. I'm like, okay, not a big deal. But when you go down to if somebody clicks on subscribe to my podcast, do those subscribers show up in my numbers on Apple and Spotify? And the answer is no. Your Trailergram subscribers are not connected to outside platforms. And you're like, well, when a listener subscribes to my podcast, what data do you collect? We do not collect and are not able to share the specific names, contact details of your subscribers, but you'll have the ability to engage with them through push notifications about your show for as long as you continue to be on our platform. And I just was like, and so for me, when I saw this, I was just like, how do I drive episode plays of my podcast once they have listened to the trailer? Our platform tracks what episodes subscribers listen to and optimizes future notifications to subscribers based. So it's basically you're putting somebody between you and your audience. And I just kind of went, yeah. My initial reaction was, no. And I just see more of these now companies where, especially we'll put a link. So it's not really, they have to click a play button. So it's not like it's automatically rolling the file and it's, that kind of shenanigans where people are just having autoplay and then they set up a script to keep loading the page. So it keeps loading that. But I don't know. For me, it just seemed a little like the whole, they're not subscribing to my show. They're subscribing to the push notifications that they control. I went, no, no, I want my subscribe buttons there. I don't know. What are your thoughts in looking at that?
Yeah, it's interesting. I've looked at it for 30 seconds.
Yeah,
so
there you go.
I'm just kind of guessing on this, but do they? What's the question I want to ask? So they're basically a host. Then they're a walled garden. They're a host. They have an app that they get people to sign up for. The 10,000 impressions, is that what it was for $500? Something like that.
So
is that the right number?
So they're going to put that. Yeah. So you get 5,000 impressions, and that's when I went over to Yahoo. Yeah. And I was like, well, where are these awesome ads that they're talking about? And it's like there's basically if you click on any article, typically on Yahoo, you will find at the bottom of the page. Well, Yahoo is just a mess. First of all, let's just
that's the MSN and Yahoo. They're just
they just keep putting story after story. I clicked on one story and I got like 5 different versions of the same thing. But I occasionally go to Yahoo just because it's fun to see just how bad it is. And of course now I'm not seeing. Oh, there they are. I clicked on a story. Let me share my screen. And when I now go back, so I clicked on one story and it went back to the front page of Yahoo, and you'll see where at the bottom you have, here's a Zoom PodTrack P8 and all these little, kind of ads at the bottom. Some of these are stories, but that's definitely an ad for Sweetwater.
Cookie-based ad, right?
Yeah.
You were over at Sweetwater. It
Yeah.
knows that cookie, and
Yeah.
so it's serving up
So
that
here's
ad.
another ad. So again, but my whole point is when I click on this, it's going to automatically start their player. At least that's how other companies that are using this strategy are doing.
Yeah,
so it's, I don't know. It's just, I was like,
I
can't you
guess
just,
I'd want to know what their conversion rate is, right? I mean,
Yeah.
if you got, okay, is it 10,000 or 5,000 for $500? What's the
it
number?
was, let me go back. It was, survey says,
And you're probably going to get
15,000 trailer plays.
15,000. Okay.
Yeah.
And you're probably going to get a pretty small conversion. This is probably not your 3% number. This is probably your half of 1%, maybe if you're lucky number. So half of 1% of 15,000, you're talking under 100 probably. Is it worth $500 to you to have the potential for them to listen to your show? And I'm assuming, like, if the goal is to get them just to listen, well, then okay. I mean, if you're willing to pay for that,
And
but
your trailer better have your website in it.
yeah, you
Because
better have right.
Yeah.
You better have some kind. If you want to bring them over, right? If your podcast standing alone is enough. In other words, if you mention things in the podcast, if you tell people how to interact with you, if that whatever your goal is in that, then I think I wonder how do they handle. I guess they don't have any trouble handling because you're going to upload a version of your podcast to them. Does
Your
it need to be
trailer.
ad free? Or well, they say trailer.
Right.
This is then you're loading. I guess I'm confused. Oops, sorry. I gave you the thumbs up sign on. I don't. Who's doing that?
Yeah.
Where is that coming from?
There's a setting in somewhere in Ecamm that you can.
Ecamm?
I forget what it's called, but yeah.
Do peace sign. If I do, does it? Oh, look at
Okay, for the audio people, Jim put up the peace sign, and a bunch of balloons came out of nowhere in the
How
screen.
about if I do this? Does
It's-
it? Yeah.
It's
Anyway.
Yeah.
Didn't see that, but it definitely saw the peace sign. Let's see. I bet it only does it once.
It's
right?
under that little tool. It's called reactions. So
okay. Anyway, sorry. So
Yeah.
easily distracted on some of these
squirrel.
things. So I guess are they only playing the trailer on the ads? Did I lose you, Dave? Are you still there? Okay.
I'm still here. We're
you're
gonna
locked up.
switch to you for a quick second.
Your balloons. We just
Yeah, I'm just stuck. All right, excellent.
Yeah. Maybe turn the cam off and turn it back on.
We're gonna do this.
That's on the Mac, right?
It's on the Mac.
I should be able to handle that just fine.
Nope, it's just gonna be balloons.
All right, you work on it.
We'll figure it out. Yeah.
See what you can do. But the I'd imagine. I guess my confusion was this trailer. So you're just giving them a trailer, and they're playing that trailer in the ad that or on Yahoo and People, and I guess I'd want to make sure my audience is in those places too. But is that the way it works?
Yeah, it puts your my camera is really having a bad day. I'm trying to turn it off and on and all sorts of stuff, and it's like it's just stuck. Interesting. We have a fun picture of a balloon. Yeah,
of a really green balloon.
Yeah, so wherever these ads show up on Yahoo, apparently, probably when you mouse over them, a little play button will show up or listen or something like that, and it's like, well,
and it's not an episode; it's a trailer.
It's a trailer,
right?
Yeah, and then somehow error making ISO recording. An error occurred with the ISO recording. And it was stopped. Okay, so we're having some Ecamm issues today. I did just upgrade, by the way. That's a bad idea. If you're going live, don't upgrade.
You got to do it. There always has to be a first time for something, right?
Yeah.
It's something you just got to do it. So then the trailer gets them to subscribe to your podcast, and they're subscribing to the podcast that you've uploaded to their hosting for you, right? It's in their app. It's in their ecosystem. Is that the way I understand it correctly?
Yeah, they're hosting the. It's funny. I keep trying. We just cannot lose that. I think we're just gonna. Is it worse? Should we have just a black screen, or do we just want me stuck in holding a peace sign?
No, leave it up. Like here, I'll see if maybe I can get mine stuck.
Yeah. So they host the trailer, and then apparently probably through your feed they get your other episodes. So if somebody listens to the trailer and then they click, because the little picture we had there of it, let me get that back up on the screen. Maybe if I share my screen, if we switch scenes,
It'll unlock it.
Maybe we'll see. I'm gonna guess no. I can see my camera. It's just stuck. So there's the picture of People Magazine with a bear, and on the right hand side they have a In the Wild podcast with a little play button there. So it just, to me, I'm like, why not? Because I can see where they have little social buttons there. There's a little Facebook and this and that. Like, why not have links to your Apple, Spotify, Amazon? Did you just pop a bubble or a balloon?
Yeah. Well, Dave in chat said, Jim, do double peace signs. So when you bring me back, I'll show you what that looks like. Here we go. So you do double. Hold on. You got to make sure they can see both. Double peace signs. Hold on. There we go. And okay, watch
the
the
balloons come up and confetti. What more do you want? Yeah,
these are like gang signs, flashing podcasting gang signs.
That's it. All right, I'm going to quit my camera. It says, do you want to quit the camera? Yes, I'm going to quit the camera. This will be lovely material that I'll be removing later from the audio version.
Will you though? Will you remove it?
Well, I can't talk about that. I had a little oopsie where I did. It was interesting when you do. Sometimes it's fun to take a risk. And so what I did was I asked David Hooper, because he did this really great episode where he shared all this behind the scenes stuff on his interview with Dolly Parton. He got to interview Dolly Parton. And I was listening to it and I was like, man, it was really so good. It was like a driveway moment to where normally I listen to podcasts. I have a speaker that hangs on my shower rod. And I'm like, I don't even want to, I want to give this my undivided attention, because I was really getting sucked into it. And I listened to the whole thing and I was like, okay, why was that good? And so I kind of went back and took some notes, and I asked Dave, I said, hey, can you come on? I just want to basically do a show with you where I tell you how great your podcast is. And he's like, okay, sounds good to me, And so we did that, and I really wasn't sure if this was going to work or not. And I've had multiple people say that was a really cool episode. So sometimes you might want to try something a little different just to see if it works or not. I knew it wasn't going to be horrible. When I listened back to it, I'm like, is this going to resonate with anybody? Because it's me listening to, like, you tuned in to hear Dave Jackson. Instead, you hear David Hooper, which is not a bad thing. And then you're hearing Dave Jackson comment on David Hooper stuff to David Hooper. So it was this really meta kind of thing. Yeah, my camera hub will start in a moment, and it's not starting. So this is where.
Did you forget to bleep something out too?
Yes, that was the fun part. So
yeah,
the great thing was that he had dropped an F-bomb, and then he bleeped it out, and I was like, that was a great use of a bleep, because we all know what he really said. We heard the f of that. And then I said the word, and I bleeped myself out. And then later, about a minute and a half later, I said it again and totally forgot about it. And this, oh wait, we have camera. Now all I need is something to do to, okay, we can do this. Dave's iPhone. All I need is a stand.
Oh.
So it's just going to be a little rocky because I have nothing to set this on.
Are you going to? Yeah, you're not going to hold it the whole time, are you?
I hope not. Let's see if because my camera hub, my Elgato camera is just, it's just not. I restarted that software, so I might have to hold it, which is not ideal.
I'm going to have a seizure at some point.
Can I? Can I place this on? Nope. Can I? I need a book. What I need is a. Normally I have stands and stuff. I have nothing to prop this
Well,
on.
if you weren't holding it, maybe the product thing that you were talking about showing at the end of the program would be perfect for
Be
you for
perfect
this,
for that.
which is just a foreshadowing to something we're going to talk about at the end of the
At
show.
the
That's
end,
not going to be helpful to you at all.
it might
Hey, do you
be.
want to? You want me to do? You want me to
Oh
get my nerd
yes,
on,
yeah.
and
We
you
can
can
get your nerd on. We had a
you can
question.
yeah
Everybody's getting
read
seasick. Here, let's do
read the
this.
question.
The question is somebody's they're using Wi-Fi and they are let's do here with the aerial shot of Dave.
Oh,
The they're using Wi-Fi, but they're not getting great connection, and they're kind of it's not great, and they're like, huh. And they said, I see where they make these Wi-Fi boosters, and he thought, do those like really work? And so I thought, hey, that sounds like a great question.
And now, oh, he's been waiting for this. It's time for Jim to get his nerd on.
That's not the one I wanted.
wrong
we go.
camera. There we go. There we go. All right, we'll see if Dave can get that fixed. Maybe I need to get my nerd on around having the USB camera plugged in or what. But okay, let's talk about Wi-Fi extenders, Wi-Fi boosters. There's a difference between the two, but for this argument, let's just talk about how do you get Wi-Fi? How do you extend Wi-Fi to a section of your house or to a spot, a location on your property that you may not run wired service to? As an example, I have a shed on the back of my property that I use for things other than the shed that I want to be out there for. I got a computer out there. I want to get Wi-Fi out there, but I don't want to dig a trench to run a wire out there. The home Wi-Fi that I use doesn't quite have the range to reach all the way out to the shed. And so what I've done is I've actually just purchased a Wi-Fi extender, goes onto the edge of the house that faces that shed, and it takes that signal and it broadens the the availability of that signal. Now you have to realize whenever you're doing any kind of broadening of sort, right? When you're extending it, oftentimes you're weakening the signal to get farther distance. Now, that's a general statement. They have new extenders today that are better at this, some directional stuff. But for the most part, the farther you want to get out, the slower the signal is going to be for you. The harder it has to work to get there. So they do. So that's one way of doing it. There's all kinds of different equipment you can buy to get that done. You can buy a mesh cluster of Wi-Fi repeaters that basically work in the house and they extend it all throughout the house. You can buy some boosters. Is a kind of word that some folks use that you'd put like I did. They do have some point-to-point extenders as well that you could purchase where they're two antennas. They're powered, so you have to have power in both locations. This isn't, like if you were sending out to a barn or to a shed, you need to have power out there to receive this. A laptop wouldn't run this kind of thing. But you'd put them on either end and they got some lights on them and you can line them up and then they make a connection that way. For a farm or for a shed or for a barn like that, it's for some folks that's a good way of getting it out there without running wire. Let me say this: Wi-Fi for podcasting, it's really something you should never use. Just to be 100% honest, like Wi-Fi
Preach.
is not, Wi-Fi is not a good standard. It's not a good. It struggles with video. It struggles. It's getting better, by the way. It's getting better. Most of the time, the Wi-Fi router that you own has a really cheap processor in it, really small, and it just can't handle. It's not really designed to handle that kind of traffic. And then a lot of people bought Wi-Fi routers that were like $7 or whatever. And you're like, yeah, that's not going to have good equipment in it. Use them for a while and people complain, oh, they stopped working. I'm like, it's because you burnt the chip out. That's on the inside of that thing. Like you heated that thing up enough. Sometimes they don't have fans in them. So this is one of those, this is an area I would say for podcasters. If you don't have to use Wi-Fi, don't wire everything. You just get better. You get better connections. You get better service. It works better. All those kinds of things. if you have to use Wi-Fi, how much you pay for that router will definitely correlate to the service that you get with it. So a $79 router, can you get away with it? Probably, but I'd spend a little bit more if that's all you can do. Like if your office, if you can't run cable to the office, just spend a little bit of money on it. That's going to be an important piece of equipment. And make sure you're getting a quality Wi-Fi router because it can make a big difference. There you go, Dave. You're looking better now. I stalled as long as I could.
Thank you very much. Yeah, it's it helps to have a thing here in the front that I disconnected my Elgato face cam. I have these quick lock things on my that basically I just undid it, screwed it onto the bottom of I have a claw of some sort that can hold a phone. And so I just screwed it into the bottom of that, snapped it back in place, and I was like, okay, you get a much wider view of the studio than I wish, but that's all right. And through all this excitement, you know what we forgot to do? I was like, oh, holy cow. We have an absolutely very cool instance of, you guessed it, we have a new awesome supporter. We forgot to say this at the top of the show. It is, let me go back here a little bit, Ronnie from Dancing is Forbidden. You can find him at dancingisforbidden.com. And for the record, I'm going to add this in post. I'm going to say that at the beginning of the show as well. So he'll get a couple mentions here. But have you ever heard of Aqua Teen Hunger Force? Jim?
Sorry, I was doing. And I think the echo thing is going on.
Oh, it is.
Well,
there we go. Now you're done.
there we go.
But yes, so it's he's a new awesome supporter, an Aqua Teen Hunger Force exploration. So apparently Aqua Teen Hunger Force is some sort of television show that I've never heard of. It's a cartoon. It looked kind of interesting. And if you're like, oh my gosh, somebody else listens to Aqua Teen Hunger Force besides me, yes, his name is Ronnie, and you can find him at dancingisforbidden.com. So we'll thank our awesome supporters a little later as well. But it just dawned on me. I was like, hey, in the process of being all excited and getting going and that whole 9 yards, I'm like, oh yeah, I changed the intro a little and was going to go into that, and then just went right back into here's Jim Cullison, and I was like, I forgot to mention Ronnie. How shame on me.
No worries. Wow, it's always appreciate it when we get a new supporter.
Yeah, always fun. So
Todd the Gator, thanks for that the feedback on the out there. He did Jeremy did say he's using he sends Ethernet over. He's got a converter that'll send Ethernet over coax in his house. Uses it for far reaching access points. And that's a way that there's some ways. They also have some extenders you can plug into power outlets.
I've seen that.
It'll take it, route it across the power. There's some things your power needs to be. It all needs to be on the same circuit, and some of those kinds of things to work. They're okay. Those kinds of things are okay. Nothing beats running
Direct.
Cat 6E direct. Yeah, it's complicated. That's the problem. That running Ethernet cable is not DIY for most people. It's twisted pairs, and they all got to be in the right order, and the ends are difficult to get put together, and it's just not easy. Yeah, you can buy 100-foot section of it and run it in the house and some of those kinds of things. I know of some individuals who ran, when they were building the house, they just put in the closets, they just put PVC. They built PVC pipe from the basement to the top of the house in several places so that they could just run stuff up if they needed to, slide it up, run it through the attic and then down into rooms and such like that, and then save their bacon a couple times. So that's a little more, Wi-Fi is a little less DIY than it should be. It should not be as hard as it is in some cases. It's not hard to buy the router, set it up, plug it in, and turn it on. But good heavens, setting up a network, getting all the things assigned to it, securing it so that your neighbors aren't using it, some of that kind of stuff. That's still technology we haven't really made easy yet, I think.
I have Google's whatever router kind of thingamabob, they made it pretty easy. And what I love about it, and Amazon's making things a little easier too, where if you set up like a Fire Stick on on your Wi-Fi or whatever, and you buy a second, Fire Stick for the bedroom, it kind of just, it's like, oh, well, we've seen this information before, and just grabs it. I was like, that's almost too easy.
Yeah. Yeah,
So
yeah, it does. Yeah, you can store through Amazon, you can store your Wi-Fi. It's
yeah,
secure, sort of.
kind of.
Um, you can, and so then when other devices connect, this was their solution, right? Because they were going to get an Echo in every home, not every home, every room. And
Yeah.
so if you had to go on one of those devices and put in the network password that you have, I mean, mine is gigantic, and it's a phrase, and it's got numbers and letters, and it's on a remote, that's super hard. If they can say, hey, you're connecting to this Amazon account, we have this saved as your Wi-Fi. Yeah, that part does make it easy. The back end stuff is what I'm talking about, though. The getting that set up, knowing
yeah.
what's secure, knowing, I know some guys that put like NSA VAN as their SSID so people won't try to connect to it. It's every neighborhood's got there. It was for a while, I used to drive around neighborhoods with my laptop open just to kind of see what people were
Name
naming
their
their stuff,
Wi-Fi. Yeah.
Yeah, it's
That-
we should be better at this than we are, but that's just a technology that hasn't been disrupted yet.
Yeah. We do have another question here. I don't remember where I got this, but I thought, that's a topic. It's kind of visual, but I think we can get away with it. Jim, do you just have Home Gadget Geeks at this point? I mean, I know you do shows for work, but on the
Personally,
yeah.
yeah. Just that's the one show that's left. Yeah.
Because the question is, if you have more than one show, how do you organize it? And so what I do, I guess I could share my screen and do this, because Ask the Podcast Coach is pretty well set up to where it's not too crazy. So there's my screen. If I go now, I'm on my Mac. So hopefully you see. Do you see? Yes, you do. Good. So
Yep.
here I have a folder called Podcasts, which there are a lot in there. But if I go to so first of all, have a folder called Podcast. Then in that folder, have other folders for all your shows. So if I go into Ask the Podcast Coach, hopefully, okay, now I do have some things in here that shouldn't be in here, which probably means I exported to the wrong folder. Yeah, let's, in fact, while I'm here, we will just say goodbye to those. And so I've got episodes, I've got finished, and usually production. Usually those are the three that I have. Now I've added a couple here, original files, patron only, and show openers. But usually it's just episodes where if I go into that, now this one, because this show's been going on so long, I now put into years. But so here, if I wanted to see 2023, I can go in there. And now, since we're doing today, I might as well go ahead and say, hey, today is 11/11/23. And that's where all the images, all the files, when I export from the Rodecaster, all that's going to go into there. And then when it's done, when I go back, I have finished. So this should just be a bunch of MP3 files. Yep. So this is all, and you can see where I have them somewhat dated, so I can kind of tell what's what and what the episode is, et cetera, et cetera. So just have a folder. And this way, what you do by having folders is you don't end up with a file named Ask the Podcast Coach November 11th, 2023, and then whatever the title of the show is. So that's how I do that. The production folder is simply everything that I need to make an episode. So you'll see here's Ask the Podcast Coach intro. I have thrown in there's David Lee Roth. These are all the sounds that are on the sound pad. Here's the High LPR 40. So it's just with folders that you do that. Then the other thing I just started doing is using Apple Notes. I did an episode on this, on how do you organize stuff. So you can see there's the question, how do you do that? Here's the Wi-Fi booster. And so I've got a folder over here called Podcasts. And then, so here's one for Akron Podcasts, and Podcast Rodeo Show. And then you can have subfolders. So I've got a Podcast Rodeo folder, and then I have an episode or a folder called Finished, which has the one episode. So the thing I love about this, if you're on a Mac, of course, is it synchronizes on your phone, on your tablets, and on your computer. If you're on a PC, you can still get this via iCloud. But I'm organizing my stuff here in Apple Notes where I used to use Evernote. And I think I'm going to actually cancel my Evernote because Evernote kind of wants you to use them like a library. And I use, Dropbox and MediaFire and things like that for storing files. So that's how I organize my stuff. And as always, I think we all have our own little styles and things like that. When you're at work with your Gallup stuff, are you in charge of the files, or are you just the talent? You just show up and
No, in charge of both for the most part. The video guys keep their video and audio stuff in a folder where they can find it. We don't. The written stuff is going to get posted to Gallup.com, and that's going to be backed up in its own form. I've never found any reason to keep any of those things. In fact, for a lot of years, they weren't even keeping video or audio backups. We were using we're using the host provider, and I was like, no, guys, we need to hold on. We need to hold on to those. I keep for Home Gadget Geeks and for the other podcasts that I do or I did, I keep a local copy here. And then I've really just boiled it down, Dave, to keeping the live video in full fidelity, whatever it was made in, whatever I get from YouTube, right? Keep that, because from that I can make anything. Then I spend some time on the edit. In that edit, actually, I run it through the video. The video edited version goes through Auphonic and gives me a new video and a new audio with everything leveled. Then I keep those two leveled versions of it. Actually, I don't keep the MP3 because I can easily make the MP3 from the video if I need to go back and get it. And I just keep those two files. That's all I keep. So live and the edited video, because I can make everything from that. That's got all the work associated with it. You know how many times I've gone back and pulled a backup to get something? Zero.
yeah,
0 times. Zero. Now, if I didn't keep a backup, it would be 100 times. For whatever reason, that's the way it works. But I have never really gone back. I always kept them because, well, if I need to go back and do something, and I've never had to. But I still have them. I still have them all. Every single one.
It's funny you say that because I started, I have Dropbox, I have MediaFire, and we're talking terabytes of stuff, especially if you're doing video. And I started using Backblaze's. They have I forget what it's called. It's not your typical backup. It's made for it should be called things you should throw away, but you're not, because it's really cheap to store it. And then they charge you a little more if you ever download it. I'm like, that's exactly what I need. And so I think I have 5 terabytes now, and I've just started, and I want to say it was $4.50 for the month. And I was like, perfect.
Yeah.
But I'm the same way. I don't know if somehow we thought there was going to be a Dave Jackson museum. I'm like, what are we saving these for? I'm like,
I know.
And it just dawned on me. I'm like, I've never gone back. And because, that way I can get it and get the WAV file versus the MP3 file, which I have all of those saved. I was like, so there's a Backblaze B2. Thank you, Daniel. And I was just like, because it's taking up a lot of hard drive space. Hard drives are cheap, but when you buy a 4 terabyte hard drive and you fill it up in less than a year because you started doing video, I was like, I need to ask myself, am I ever going back to any of these? And if so, and the answer was the same. Never. I've never gone back. I'm on occasion, I thought about it when I did episode 900 of going back and grabbing clips. That takes a humongous amount of time. If you want to do some sort of retrospect, start it now so that when you get to whatever episode, but I just was like, we're not doing that. And
there may be a different scenario though, where say YouTube went away. And listen, that would seem impossible today, but what if it did? That's where both my live, that's a backup of my live and my edited video. But say that goes away and I wanted to go somewhere else, and it just happened one day, right? Those are the kind of things you're trying to prevent. Christian is my media host provider. He has every single audio file I've ever done for any of the podcasts on his servers. What if one day something happens to that facility and I need to recreate, I need to go out and recreate the feed again to bring it back online. So you can't say, well, I've never gone to the backups, therefore I should probably just start get rid of them. Well, that's the
Right.
wrong. You
Yeah.
have backups to prevent that, right? But it is, my good friend Mike Howard, the late Mike Howard, he kept a copy of everything, every edit along the way. So he had
Oh
like
man.
live, and then an edit to here, and then he kept that, and then an edit here, and he kept that. And he was just, I mean, he was just adamant about having all those backups. And back in the day, I think he had 10 or 12 or 15 terabytes of data before any of us were even thinking about what a terabyte was. And so, listen, I think you have to do what helps you sleep at night. That's what's important. If you want to keep all that stuff, keep it by all means. Your Backblaze B2, which sometimes is called cold storage, right? That's where data goes and it sits, and it's really just for disaster, or the one or two times you're going to pull that stuff back. And they make it super easy to do. And it, like you said,
Yeah.
it's not a little more expensive. It's actually significantly more expensive to pull that stuff back. But that's the idea, right? They store it somewhere on really cheap storage. But that's the idea. It sits there and waits for a disaster of some kind.
Yeah, I use CyberDuck to FTP the stuff, and
Yeah.
because like
No.
when you're doing
No.
videos for the School of Podcasting, that adds up real quick. Dan says I go back to remaster old episodes sometimes, so that's helpful to have the original files. Yep, I've done that. Still have a cassette of my grandpa reading the Christmas story, and I cleaned it up like I don't know, probably 8 years ago. And the tools I have now for cleanup are much better. So I'm glad I still have the cassette. I just need a cassette deck now to play it on. But it's like, it's
I
nice
have
to
one.
have. Yeah, I'm going to say
I
I
do
have
have
one.
one.
Yeah, I have the only CD player I now have in the house, besides my Xbox, now that I think about it, is an external one that I could plug into my computer. But an actual like CD player stereo thing, nope. I listen to all that
Listen,
stuff.
vinyl came back. Cassettes are going to come back at some point. They are. It may be 10 years from now, but you're going to be able to go to Walmart and get a rack mounted,
Oh yeah.
dual cassette player
And then my
that's
favorite,
got a counter on it, right?
yeah,
Remember those
that's the
things?
counter. Yes. Well, nothing will beat the 8-track tape, though.
Oh God, that was
My
awesome.
favorite, you're in the middle of a song, it fades out, and then it fades back in. You've missed half the song. And I just always want to go, who said that's perfect? Let's keep that. Oh, 8-track. But
Well,
you could,
it didn't last very long.
no.
To be fair, 8-track had a 7 to 10 year run. Cassettes came in pretty quick and replaced them, right?
Yeah.
Reel to reel before that, right? If we're talking about tape
Yeah.
technology, reel to reel to 8-track to cassette, and then we got smart with DVD or
Yeah.
with CD.
Jim, can you translate this into English? Daniel says, I just got a
Yep.
QNAP 4 drive USB attached storage hub. I'll first put in a 12 TB drive, terabyte. That one I know. Later, I'll add a second 12 terabyte. So if I were to guess, the QNAP 4 drive is a little box that you somehow put other USB things. It's like that thing that went out of business. You were talking about. No.
Not somehow. you you take a hard drive. It's just got 4 bays. And you can take a standard 3.5-inch drive and slide those in, close the door, and then that drive becomes available. So he's going to start off with a 1 drive. It's got capability of doing 4. He's going to put 1 drive in and start backing up to it. Then he's going to take a second drive, another 12 terabyte drive, and RAID. That just means the 2 drives work in tandem. The data stored across both drives. That's in a RAID 1. A RAID 5 is a configuration then for disaster recovery, where if 1 drive fails, the other 2 drives have enough information to recreate the data that was on the drive that failed. And so it's a pretty complex way. You can just say kind of backup. You need 3 drives to be able to do RAID that way for disaster recovery. And RAID 1's super fast because it's got the ability to read off 2 drives. Yeah, it's super fast.
Yeah, Jeremy says, whatever you do, make sure to test restoring the files every so often. You don't want to need them. Yeah, that's WP. There was some backup service I used, and the reason I used it is because I had to restore it one time. I fired up a new website and restored it. It worked perfect. I'm like, that's the one I'm using, because I used a bunch of different backups, and then you'd go to restore it, and it was like you had to do the hokey pokey and turn yourself around. I'm like, no, I don't want to have to do that when I'm in panic mode because my website's been, I have the white screen of death. So that's always
Well,
fun.
we really, with Windows, we really went through 2 phases of thinking about the way we backed up. One was, well, like you think, okay, my computer went down. I want to take the hard drive out, put a new hard drive in, and I'm going to restore it to the exact condition it was the last time I backed it up, right? And Windows got so big and bulky, and Mac is kind of this way too, to be honest. They got so big and bulky, we kind of started shifting to, okay, and then hard drive availability, off-site NAS devices, or not off-site, but NAS devices, separate networking structures, or now the cloud got so prevalent that we started thinking, you know what, just let's keep our data separate from our operating system. And if Windows ever goes bad or whatever, I'll just reinstall Windows and then bring the data that I need back, right? Set some things back up. But in the Windows world, recovering from a backup is still kind of hard. Like it's
Yeah.
not a fun thing. I got to the point I was doing it so much, I was like, I'm gonna reinstall and never customize anything. Like it's gonna stay. It drives and I do that with everything, with my phone, with everything, and it drives my daughter crazy. She's like, Dad, you still have the screen that came out of the box on your iPhone. And I'm like, yeah, I kind of do, but it's for backup and recovery, right? Now, as soon as I started doing that, I never lost anything again, right? It's that kind of thing you do, but yeah, I just don't customize.
I just realized what this is. It's like what is that? Well, that's supposed to be an air horn, but it's not. Okay. Nothing's working today. I was going to say it's the extended dance version of Jim Gets His Nerd On.
Oh yeah. A lot of geek topics today. I think somebody said times
There we go.
times 2. There we go. Yeah.
I was like, what the heck?
Well, but listen, Dave, these things
Backs up
it's
important. Yeah.
and we're coming to the end of the year, and it's an important time to think about these things, right? Of do my backups work? Right? Am I storing them the way that I want to? Have I checked my subscriptions? Am I still using my Office or my Microsoft 365, I think is what it's called now, subscription, just renewed today actually? And you're like, oh, do I still need that? Kind of thing. Do I need to go in and set that to expire if I'm not using it? So this is a good time of the year to start thinking through those things. We get into the holidays, maybe have a little extra time. Check those things out.
Well, what I noticed was my fairly new, little baby Mac kept giving me the beach ball. And I was like, why? And I looked up, I'm like, oh, my hard drive's almost full. That's why I was like, all right, we need to get this
Your
stuff.
backup hard drive, or the hard drive on the mini?
In the computer, yeah. Because when I make videos, I put them there because for some reason, sometimes making videos, you don't want to export to an external hard drive. They always say don't do that in Camtasia. So I do that, and then I copy and paste it. And it was like, yeah, but we do.
Are you putting things in the trash? So hold on, before you transition, are you putting things in the trash that you're not deleting? On Mac, it's super easy to say move to the trash, and then you kind of forget, and that trash space is taking up space.
Yeah, I always empty the trash, and then I double check that. I'll triple check to make sure that whatever I just moved to the cloud is in the cloud, and then I empty the trash. So. But we do have fun things going on today. First of all, we'll get to the awesome supporters here in a second. So Ronnie's going to be very happy to hear. But today is Jason Bryant's first 15-year podiversary. He says, now I'm at approximately 3,170 episodes and have hosted, edited, or produced 42 different podcast shows. So that's pretty amazing. And I had it right here. And it just went away because you deserve one of, forget it. Here it is. These.
Whoa! Whoa!
There you go. Can I do balloons now that I have?
Oh, don't do it.
Yeah.
Don't do it. Yeah, just give it a try. Give it a try. Let's see how it goes.
I'm not as cool as you, man. It's just
what?
Not. I guess.
Why does it stop doing it for you? Because maybe you're on a different camera?
Yeah, maybe. I'm just not as cool as Jim Collison. That's all there is to
That's
it.
True. That's true.
So, but speaking of that, let's throw that. Here we go. We do want to thank our awesome supporters. We talked about Ronnie earlier. He is the Spotlight Supporter of the Week. But if we go back to the beginning, you can be an awesome supporter by going to askthepodcastcoach.com/awesome. You could be as cool as Ronnie. We're on our road to 40 supporters here. And the show is brought to you by the schoolofpodcasting.com, where you get courses, coaching, and community, and unlimited one-on-one coaching. I had someone yesterday on a LinkedIn chat. They're like, wait, how is that possible? And I'm like, don't question it. Just, yes, I do that. I'm like, no wife, no kids. That's how it's possible. And we run on Podpage. If you want to check out Podpage, go to trypodpage.com. If you're already on Podpage and you want to know more, check out learnpodpage.com. That'll take you there. And if you need more Jim Collison, and who doesn't, go over to the average guy. He's the balloon king. It's so funny. TheAverageGuy.tv, or just go to homegadgetgeeks.com. That'll take you there as well. And ask the podcast coach. And for the record, the locking up of the camera today, I don't believe that's not an Ecamm problem. I'm not blaming Ecamm. I'm blaming the in this case the Elgato camera hub is what locked up, not Ecamm. Because obviously I'm not locked up now. I mean, luckily I just had my phone here, so that worked out. But if you want to check out Ecamm, askthepodcastcoach.com/Ecamm. And again, thanks to Ronnie over at dancingisforbidden.com. And I wanted to point this out because I was like, I've never heard of this. And Jason Bryant, I love Aqua Teen. Dan says, hey, I used to watch Aqua Teen Hunger Force a long time ago. It's mindless adult swim show. So if you just need something to turn your brain off, check out Adult Swim, check out Aqua Teen Hunger Force. And again, then go check out Ronnie's show at dancingisforbidden.com. Thank you so much for your awesome support. And again, we're on our way to 40 supporters. I don't know where we're at. I know we lost another one. So we keep, every time we gain one, we lose one. I'm like, nah. But askthepodcastcoach.com/awesome is where you can do that. And your support is appreciated. So here's a fun question. I just had it. This is I've seen a couple of people doing something different with this, and I was like, that's a good idea. And that is, I wish listeners could comment on episodes or like or dislike them. I understand why they can't. I haven't received much feedback via Twitter or Facebook. How do you guys get feedback? Do you get it on email? And there are a couple things I've seen people do. One person set up their own Discord server, which to me, every time I go into Discord, it just looks like an Atari video game from like 1982. That I'm like, oh my, you got to be kidding me.
You hear old Journey songs playing in the background.
That's it. And I'm always like,
is that Tron? Is that a Tron image there?
And so, but if your audience is into Discord or Mastodon or wherever you want it, you can set up your own community and then put a link in the show notes like, hey, to continue the conversation, click on this link. So I have seen people do that. And I think it was, it might've been Podcasting 2.0 that took you to a Mastodon server. So if there's a place like, I think Todd the Gator has one for his video game. I think he has a Discord server, if I remember right. And so you could do it that way. It just makes it easier to get to it as opposed to find my, Mastodon server or whatever. If you got a direct link to that, that makes it easier. Back in the day, people used to leave comments on WordPress. And the only people that leave comments on my WordPress now are people that are promoting some sort of boner pill in China. And I'm like, okay, and your spam as well. So do you get a lot of feedback on your Gallup shows or?
Oh yeah. I mean, and we'll just take them however they come in. I mean, I get them directly because I connect to a lot of the listeners on LinkedIn. I just get LinkedIn messages from them. That's just what I make myself super available, and they have no problems contacting me when they want something, right? So LinkedIn Messenger has been a good community, or LinkedIn has been a good community. I let them, and I do make a strong connection to them. So I think I have 14,000 connections now on LinkedIn.
Nice.
So it allows them to message me basically without having to use the paid version of LinkedIn. We have a Discord for Home Gadget Geeks that works out pretty well. I get a lot of email. I did a show last week where I asked for email, and I got quite a bit of it. It was good. you know?
I think that's part of it too. Jeremy Dennis says we set up a feedback page with all the ways to contact us and a SpeakPipe widget, and we also use Discord. Yeah, that's a great way. If you set up like, yourwebsite.com/contact, and then there's your email, there's your Discord, there's your smoke signals, whatever you got, SpeakPipe, Pod Inbox, etc., etc. That way you're not, hey, follow me on SpeakPipe. Like I heard the feed say it's like, it was like speakpipe.com/the feed. I'm like, ooh, don't do that. I always say, make it like the reason I have askthepodcastcoach.com/awesome is if something comes along much, much better than Patreon and I want to switch, I can just redirect that link. And then I don't have, 400 episodes with the wrong link in it. So that's a way that you can do that to, kind of future proof your show. But the other thing is ask specific questions. I spoke at this event in Indianapolis last week, and we were talking about that, how if you ask somebody a very generic question like, so what'd you think? So Jim, if I go, what do you think? You'd probably say,
I don't know. About what?
anything. Just,
Yeah.
so what'd you think of that pie?
Oh, it's fine.
Yeah. So, but if you ask somebody a specific question like, hey, was this too long? How much of this did you listen to? How likely are you to share this with a friend? You get less generic answers, because that's good is not helpful. Like it's not specific. Like, why is it good?
Be very specific.
Yeah.
Yep.
Be very,
Yeah.
so
Be very specific. Yeah. The other thing, I listened to a show, and they actually have made the feedback part of the show, in that giving, like, some of the people, the emails that are coming in, they've given them nicknames, so that they're like, oh, this is Ice Cream Bob, or oh, this is Sea
Right.
Bass. And they actually become characters in the future as they're referring to things. Well, that encourages others to be like, oh, I want to be like, I'm going to send some email in and hope it gets read, so that I get to be a part of the show too. So there can be some of that. I think it takes a lot of care. I think sometimes we think we want email, but then when we get it, we do podcasting malpractice, and we don't respond to it, or we don't give. I mean, listen, I've had listeners send me in a book of feedback, or just something, and if I just reply to them with, hey, thanks for your feedback, that's not really what they're looking for. They're looking for interaction, right? They're looking for me to dialogue with them. So don't practice, or don't do podcasting malpractice and ignore it. Once you get it, you better reply to it in some form or fashion.
Yeah, Todd says we have a channel called Show Feedback where we discuss past episodes. That's a great idea. That's, again, he's using Discord. Chris Nessie says, hey, I think too many pro podcasts don't ask for or care about feedback. Yeah, and that hurts indie podcasters like so many of us. That could be. And there's nothing worse than asking your customer, your listener, whatever, for feedback and then ignoring it. You've just proven that you don't care. So it's like, yeah.
It doesn't mean you have to do it. That's not what you're saying. When you say ignore it, that doesn't mean you have to do it, because sometimes you get bad feedback and you're like, yeah, I can't do that. But you have to acknowledge the person and say, hey, I understand. Thank you for your feedback. I won't be going in that direction. And this is why. And yeah, that could go back and forth, and you could have a disgruntled listener that way, but it ignoring it, then they're gone. Phew, like, see ya. Like, if you can't take 5 minutes to respond to Chris Nessie's point, though, there's no way Rogan can possibly respond to the amount of, I bet he gets some crazy feedback. So
yeah, I heard some people calling him names on an episode I was listening to this morning, and I was like, I don't know that I agree with that, but he is a bit of a lightning rod. Here is another fun-filled question about Audacity, but it really applies to everybody. He said, I need some help. I've been doing our podcast for a while now. My co-host and I record in separate locations via Zoom, but each record using Audacity on our own setup, and then I usually edit with the file that she sends over. We both use the same mic, however. When recording on my laptop, it's an HP Omen gaming one, as compared to her Mac, every single recording at random intervals, I run into clipping. I'm having trouble finding a solution online, probably because I don't really know the cause or exact term for whatever that mess is. It's a pain to edit, and I'd like to prevent it if possible. Please, can anyone, any seasoned Audacity editors offer advice? And this one's actually fairly easy to answer, at least from what I think. It's when you're in Audacity, you choose your mic input, and then you'll get. I think you still have to right click on the levels and say monitor recording or something like that. And you want to stay between, I would say, -12 and -6. -3, you're getting a little close because when you go over 0, you get clipping. And so it's as simple as, like, right now, I'm going right up to the line in on my Rodecaster. And I can also see that my compressor is kicking in. That's interesting. So that's why I'm going right up to the line. And when Jim talks, I looked down earlier. He's right at the same level I am. But what's interesting is Jim's voice is, I don't know what you would call it. It's more dense in a way, in the fact that it's like there's more chocolatey goodness. Like it's the same level, but it projects more. So there are times when if I just mixed our episodes via meters, like Jim sounds much louder than I am. And so I have to kind of go in and go, wait a minute, like Jim's blowing my head off here. And I'm like, I just have to back him down. And even though the meter says he's not as loud, in the end, he is. And I think it's just because you have the soothing.
I think I have more bass. I have more bass than you. Yeah.
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 So
I think that's the way it works out. I'd recommend they get a audio interface, and if he's recording directly into that HP, that's not a good. I mean, even some of the inexpensive audio interfaces where he can get a real sound of what he's sounding like back in his ears, so he knows for sure. I mean, so much of our voice control. I've done this at work on the headset right here, where I've screamed into it. Yeah, I'm going to clip.
yeah,
Right. That's it's gonna happen. But I can hear myself doing that and say, oh, okay, I probably should back this down, because I can change the level I'm speaking right now. I can get a little quieter for you if I thought I was maybe, So I think on that, my advice to him would be throw an audio interface, any of them, PreSonus or Focusrite, or Behringer makes an inexpensive one. I have a Motu. Any of those would work. Would be a really good upgrade to make for your audio.
Behringer is or Behringer, however you pronounce it.
I think
They've
it's
been
Behringer.
really quiet. Remember when everybody was using Behringer stuff, and then Mackie now, Tascam, Rode all have podcast specific stuff. And to the best of my knowledge, I don't think there's like there's no Rode version, like a Rodecaster from Behringer. I don't know if they just said, never mind, or what, but
yeah, they got quiet. I haven't seen anything new from them in a while either. Hey, on that computer, one more thing on that HP computer, it may be old, and it may just be not working. Like, that could be a hard drive that's struggling. He could have something loaded on there that is taking up full CPU utilization during those times. And audio does not take a lot to process, but if your PC goes to 100%, it's gonna do some things on the hard drive, and it's gonna on your audio. You're gonna hear it. So just checking utilization while you're recording, probably a smart thing to do too. Lots of good tech questions today. I love this. This needs to be every week.
More tech. DR says, I sometimes use ClipFix under effects and Audacity. So there you go.
Yep. That's a good way to do it.
I don't know if this is a technical question. When I sent, this is under the overthinking part, like 6 that we're on now. When I send a newsletter that promotes our podcast on the day that the podcast gets released, should a weekly newsletter be sent out on the day the podcast gets released, or a few days later? I want to have more longevity with the podcast and make sure it gets listens outside of the day it's released. But I also don't know how the rankings work. Is it better to do hard push on the episode the day it goes out? And this is where I think, to me, I see here where he says, I'm looking to get more listens besides the day it's released, well, then I would push the newsletter. Like if I publish on Monday, Wednesday or Thursday, I'm going to do the newsletter if you want to see that. But the rankings work on, if you go to Apple, the rankings are not based on the whole ratings and reviews. They're based on how far people listen, which means it has to be good. How many people actually listened. It's not, it's if you go, I need to find that link, but they explain how, not exactly, because if they say exactly how the rankings work, well, then everyone will game them. But they've basically hinted like, hey, the longer people listen, that's good because they want to promote good things. And then how many people actually listen. So, but any thoughts on newsletter publishing kind of stuff?
Like you said, if I published on a Monday, I would do the newsletter on Wednesday. I'd give it a couple days in between. There's going to be, you're going to publish it, and then some alerts are going to go out. It's going to show up in people's podcast feed, and then your chances of someone seeing a newsletter on Monday is significantly less than if they see it on a Wednesday. Do not send newsletters on Fridays. Do not do it. Do not stop go. Do not pass go. Do not collect $200, which would be $2,000 with inflation. But the I like the Monday publish, Wednesday, and then I don't know. Maybe your audience is a little bit different. Vary it. You could do Tuesday and Thursday, but just stay away from Monday and Friday for newsletters. It's just they get lost. I get a gazillion of them on Mondays, and then the ones on Friday, I am so not thinking about. Like I am like delete, just trying to get to the weekend for sure.
Yeah, Coach Dave is saying, am I using Dropbox? Did I move away from Podcast Studio? I didn't move away from Podcast Studio, but I kind of am. Not that there's anything wrong with it. All I was using it for, like that's like a Ferrari, and I was using it to drive down the street. All I need is something to capture my notes. So I'm using Apple Notes. I really like Apple Notes. It's super simple. So speaking of that, here's one more. The title of this post in Reddit was, if I can get my mouse to work, there we go. I was a guest on a podcast. What should I do about existing social media? So this one I found a little disturbing in a way, or just like, hey, you ought to know this. As the title says, I was recently a guest on a podcast, both audio and visual, talking about some personal struggles. I was asked for filming. I asked after filming was done if there was any links, social media accounts that I wanted to be added. So they said, hey, what's your social? We'll add it. Along with a few organizations, I figured I might want to include my Instagram, but due to the nature of social media in general, I'm not sure what the safest way to do this would be. Should I, A, change my Instagram username? Currently, it's my full legal name. Changing it would help me feel better if people look. Or should I just keep my Instagram username as is, but keep my account on private? Should I create a new separate Instagram using a new email and everything? My goal isn't to gain followers or anything from this. I'm just overall nervous about people seeing the video and then finding me online. This is all new to me, and I want to be safe and still maintain a sense of privacy, I guess. Thank you in advance to anyone who is willing to help and offer some advice. And so the first thing for me, I felt bad because I just wanted to go, well, here's one way to not have people find out your personal stuff that you didn't want them to find. Don't talk about it on a podcast. And if you are going to talk about it on a podcast, the internet writes in ink, and getting rid of that is so, and it's almost, he's trying to now put the genie back in the bottle because he's got that one episode out there. So either A, you ask the person to take it down. And I had somebody this week, I reviewed their show. They asked me to review their show on the Podcast Rodeo Show. And there were some things that were good and there were a lot that weren't. And they kind of said, any chance you could pull that down? And I said, sure. I'm like, life's too short. And so, some people will pull it down, some people won't. But if the goal of your message is to share your personal story to help other people that are maybe suffering through the same thing, and you don't want people to know it's you, then you need to set up some sort of Callie Lewis kind of situation where you're not using your real name and you set up, whatever, Jim Smith, et cetera, et cetera. And then you have socials for Jim Smith. If you're really trying to stay anonymous, I don't know. Jim, any thoughts on this? I saw it and I was like, boy, this is not something you want to ask after the interview.
If you want privacy, stay off the internet.
Yeah.
Like, sorry, I hate to be that callous about it, but you're right. The cat's out of the bag, and all that stuff can be found. It's not hard. You shouldn't have gone on a podcast and given out personal information like that. You gotta be careful on these things. You have to be really careful and say some things, you got to think through, like, what do I want out there and what don't I? I mean, it's just like, listen, if we're going to be podcasters, you are giving up some of your privacy. You just are. It's, I don't personally understand podcasters who say, or people who want to be famous, but they don't want any of the negative stuff that comes with it. Right. You're like, no. You are, by doing this, you are voluntarily giving up some of your privacy. And some people say, well, I don't like that. Then I say, well, then you probably shouldn't be a public figure, because you are. When you're in podcasting, you're a public figure. That's just all that's all there is to it. And I don't know why we make this so complicated, or why we complain when it's like, well, somebody found me. Well, you put yourself out in public.
Well, that's like every time a celebrity's like, hey, somebody hacked my phone and now my boobs are all over the internet. Well, here's a novel idea. Maybe not send your boyfriend pictures of your boobs. You know what I mean? If you put it out there, they're going to find it. And if you're famous, more people are going to be looking for it. So,
yeah. And the more famous you get, the worse it is. So I just, you're this illusion of privacy.
See, somebody who should chime in, SP, right? Stargate Pioneer. Yeah. It's impossible to podcast anonymously today. Yeah, I'm sure if we really wanted to stalk SP, we could, but it's a little tricky. So
it's really hard. It's very, very hard.
If you're a female doing video, I strongly suggest using a different name. And if people go, why? It's very simple. Guys are creepy, and they just are. And I hate to say it, but I would, and if you could just be, I'm Bree. What? Thanks for joining the show. I'm Bree, and really your name is Susan. Whatever.
People will find out.
Yeah.
People will find.
Yeah. You could give them a hurdle if you wanted to.
And it's not. Go ahead. Yeah, go ahead. Let's change subject. This is depressing. Let's change subject.
The world is evil. Yeah. The other thing I thought I would share is I got a very stern note, and to their credit, they didn't ban me again. I got a thing from Amazon saying, hey, you're breaking our terms again, because I use Switchy, which is this link shortener. Well, per Amazon's terms of service, you can't make it look like it's going to someplace else if it's going to Amazon. It has to be an Amazon link. And so they were very nice. I said, hey, hold on. So I went back and put the actual raw Amazon link on some stuff. And they're like, okay, cool. Because I would log into my Amazon account. It's like, you are being a naughty boy. And I'm like, ooh, hold on. So I found this tool, and I know a few people that are using this, called Genius. And what's really cool about it is you go in and you put your, like, whatever your Amazon little identifier in. And then if you have other affiliate programs, and they have a bunch in here that you can pick from, I can actually, if I go back one step here, like here's the Sony ZV-E10. And if I take this link and go to that, it now says, hey, here's the Sony ZV-E10. So we're looking at a page, and at the top, it's got a picture of the camera, and then it's got buttons to Amazon, B&H, and Best Buy. And it says, hey, note, commissions may be earned from using this link above. And so, and they have even an affiliate disclosure at the bottom. Then you get all sorts of, now I just started using this, so I don't really have any reports. But if I did, I could see, and you can set up like groups and all sorts of stuff. So this was pretty cool. And I'm going to use Switchy for all other fun stuff, but I can go in here, I think under affiliates, and it's thinking about it. Yeah. But if I said, hey, and here are all, this is, this top one that I'm looking at. There are affiliate places, like Skimlinks is one, and Skimlinks is affiliate marketing for people that don't want to do affiliate marketing. So you basically, if you just put links to Amazon on your website, they will make them affiliate links. But if I were to add a program, this is where I didn't even realize that Best Buy had an affiliate program. There's one for Apple and all sorts of other places. So, and in some cases, they'll put a link and you can go over and sign up and et cetera, et cetera. So if you're doing any kind of affiliate marketing, they say by making these pages where people can choose, you actually end up getting more affiliate stuff, because before somebody like, oh, he sent me to Amazon. I don't do Amazon. I do B&H. And now that person can click that link and you'll get credit for it. So, and the beauty of it is it's $6 a month, which this is one of those things, if I do the math, like, okay, if the affiliate program is paying me 4%, what is 4%? Like how much do I have to earn in affiliate income to pay for the $6? But yeah, I'll put, DR says, can you put a link to that in the chat room? Yes. And the link I put in, actually, they don't have an affiliate program. They have a referral program. And if somebody uses my link, which I believe right now is supportthisShow.com/genius, I get credit for that. And then that goes towards my $6 bill. So, but I just thought that was pretty cool. And I saw where Bandrew was using it and a few other people. And I was like, oh, interesting. So I dug into it, and now it's a matter of, it's really easy in Switchy to go find me anything that has AMZ in the link. And I'm taking those and putting them into this. So I didn't see yet that Sweetwater is in the Genius kind of platform, because that's really the one I typically send people to. But which is weird, because some of those people are on impact.com, which is an affiliate directory that Sweetwater uses. So I'm going to kind of see if I can't marry those two together, then I could use that for that. But affiliate marketing can, just like we talked about, we've talked about ads and all sorts of other things. If you get the right product and the right audience, that can sometimes pay off. So I'll be interested to do it. They do have a 14-day trial, so I'm still on the trial at this point. So you never
I should
know.
go back. I dropped my Amazon account. There was too many shenanigans and too much. It's put me in a different, taxes you got to account for. And I was just like, I don't need it. Well, now that Patreon is around, I'm doing the full self-employment taxes, and my wife just changed jobs, and it looks like she'll be doing some contracting work, and so that means I'm gonna have to do the full tax. I might as well reapply at Amazon, and because I probably do enough links, it would make a difference.
Yeah. We need to announce before we go into the end of the show that we're not ending the show. We're going to do an unboxing here in a second, but because it's so visual, I'm like, well, that's not going to work on a show that's primarily audio. So it's going to sound like we're ending, but we're not. So with that said, Jim, what is coming up on the AverageGuy.tv?
Yeah, Ed Sullivan from Sonic Cupcake. He is a supporter here at the show is on. You might think Ed and I kind of talk about cigars from time to time. Not one mention of them. Ed actually did a remote podcast event, big tent, lots of people, lots of technology went into it. So if you're a podcaster and you're thinking about doing a remote event, he got there only to find out they probably weren't going to have enough power to support all the things that he needed to do. So he picked up some of those, like a Jackery generator, solar generator to use as backup, and worked really well for him. So we spent some time talking about that. Plus there's a new, let's see if I can pull it up in time here. There's a new device coming out. I can't. You'll have to go out. You have to check it out. There's a new handheld camera. It's got a 1-inch sensor that is super cool that he demos on the show. You can check it out. It's posted right now, homegadgetgeeks.com.
Nice. On the School of Podcasting, it's one of those hodgepodge kind of episodes. I talk about two kind of weird looking services, and people are doing some weird things, especially if you're doing interviews, that I was like, hey, that's not normal. So if somebody's asking you to rate and review and share and all this stuff before you come on the show, that's a little weird. And then there was a great article by Tom Webster that he's talking about how we need to learn how to promote podcasting, just the whole podcasting in general, better than we are. So that will be, of course, a Monday on the School of Podcasting. It's so weird because it's almost done. Usually I do that on Sundays. So that is coming up as well. And then in the future, I'll have a LinkedIn guy. Expert came on and told me a bunch of stuff that I really didn't want to hear. I was like, really? I've been doing it wrong all this time. Awesome. So thanks to everyone in the chat room and to Mark and Dan for your sponsorship. And I know it sounds like we're leaving, but we're not. But be sure to like, subscribe, and smash the bell. You are addicted to balloons, my friend. All right. So I got this. I should have the link to this. If you can see, if I do, can I
go
do
full screen?
I'm trying to go.
Full screen.
If I go, can I do? Nope, because this one's still here. Hold on.
Oh, bummer.
Wait, hold on. I can do this.
Such good memories. Such good memories.
Can I? Here, hold on. If I do this, just put me over.
There we go.
There we go.
There we go.
It's a thingy that you clamp onto your desk, and then it's got all these sorts of arms. This was I do have the link to this. I should grab that. Yes. This was
your head is covering the name on the box.
Yes, it is a. Let's go back to here. Throw this in the chat room. Okay.
These are really cool, by the way. These are cool.
It is AStage production station. And I was like, hey, we've never done an unboxing on this show. And so I thought, hey, why don't I do this? And then I can throw it on my YouTube channel, in theory. Except I probably should have brought a knife or something to... This is one of those, does it open from the top, from the bottom? It's from the top. All right, so, yeah, the... unboxing. There we go. Okay, so I'm now officially, I have the box open, kind of, flaps that do not want to unflap. And I will say that this is a serious piece of hardware. Like this, you might want to double check on your desk. Like I could see this flipping, I'm here to tell you this is easily 5 to 10 pounds. But on the other hand, and then the way this works, obviously you bring these down here, right? And then your desk goes here. And then what's cool is it has a thing in the top to put your phone. So I could basically, well, I can't because, my phone is in use at the moment. But I could put it there. And then the pole is going. We have other boxes. Do you feel guilty when you pop bubble wrap? Like you're wasting something?
No.
All right.
No.
So
it feels good. I like it.
So here is, so what these are the poles that go into the main pole. And then you have all these little, I hate
rip one out of there because I think these are cool.
All right. So
it looks like they give you 4, right? And too short, too long.
And so really what I have my camera plugged into now is this thing. So if I do this, I can point this up and I can point this in any direction and then tighten it up and I can move these. I'm assuming, so this is here and I can move these wherever they want, and then this one's got screws. So if I want to put like a mic on this, your typical 1/4 inch, whatever that is, thread. So I could loosen these up and slide them all around on that. So that's that arm. We've got another one, which I'm going to assume is the same.
Wait a minute, Bandrew chucks these things, Dave.
Oh, that's
so
true.
You should be throwing. There we go.
Yeah. So, oh man. All right, excellent. You know what? That's fun.
There you go.
I
well
see
done.
what he did. Well done. So this is another. So this would be like for the other side. It's basically
You get
the
2
same
of those.
thing, and you can see where it's got a big hole here. So that's going to go through the pole, and then this can then rotate whichever way you want. And so, you can put these on. Yeah. So these are the
some
arms.
of those connectors from the other arms, you can take those off and put them on those.
Here. Yep.
Yeah.
Because the last thing, of course, is the big black pole. So there's not much to it. Yeah, so I would take those off the other arm, put them on this one, put this into this, oh, and it screws in, which is nice. Wow, you could literally, this is a weapon. I'm here to tell you.
Kind of looks like a guitar. Like it'd be a super cool bass.
But you could, at this point, take somebody out with this thing.
Yeah.
I mean, it's heavy duty.
It's hefty.
Yeah.
$50, right, for this?
50 bucks.
50,
Normally
50
$200,
USD.
and it's a early Black Friday sale at Sweetwater. And I was like, you know, I kind of have stuff here already, but I could add more stuff. My goal. Oh, and of course, you've got the directions in the event you can't figure out. You know.
Nah, we don't need instructions.
We don't need no stinking directions. But there you go. Our first unboxing on Ask the Podcast Coach.
You would put a camera. You could put a camera on there. You could put
Camera,
extra
lights.
lighting.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You could have an iPad. You know, there are things. The box.
Yeah.
The box shows. Oh, they show all sorts of stuff on this. Here, if I go back to me. Classic. Where is? Yeah. So here they show, you know, a camera. You've got an iPad. You've got microphone. It's all sorts of crazy stuff. But for $50, I was like, even if I don't use it, it's $50. You got a camera at the top. You've got a light there. You've got a microphone boom arm here, you know, and an iPad. So if you're
I like how it has the capability of, you know, if you center that on you, you can send one of those arms down to put your webcam on.
Yeah.
And then that webcam is in front of the screen. So that will give you the ability to look through the screen.
Yeah.
And I've seen some plexiglass versions of that where you hang it on your monitor and you put the camera on that.
Yep.
Yeah. This might be a little bit not quite as intrusive, so to speak.
Yeah. So the link I put,
Dave, the link's above in the chat. Dave,
Yeah.
does that went to the right one, right?
It should, in theory.
That's the one I clicked on. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So it's right. It's there.
So if you're thinking of getting into video when you're like, oh, where am I going to put all this stuff? I was like, well, this might be your answer. And it's $149 off. And I was like, really? It's normally $200. I'm like, people pay $200 for that, but
yeah, I don't know if that's, I mean, retail prices are weird. That's probably a $99 piece of equipment when you think about it. AStage is a good brand. I mean, they make a lot of good accessories for podcasters, so it's a good brand.
Yeah. So
did it feel? And it felt hefty. It felt.
Oh, dude,
the arms feel hefty.
Everything
your cats are gonna climb up these things.
Yeah, it's metal. There's nothing. The only thing plastic are the knobs, but everything else, even let me see here real quick. The screws are metal. So
yep, yeah,
good deal, man.
Looks well constructed. Gary Stockton in the chat says he currently uses a monitor support arm. Same thing, by the way. Same concept, by the way. With a prompter bolted on above my monitor. Yeah, and I've got 1, 2. I guess I have 3 here on 3 different monitor stands for the 10 or 11 monitors.
So, but thanks for everyone for your patience with the weird camera stuff. I'm going to reboot, and I'm going to assume that's going to fix my camera problem, but you can't reboot in the middle of a show. I was like, oops. So the other thing I could have done was switch computers. Now that I think about it, that's what I will do next time if I ever have that issue. No, I can't. I don't have Ecamm. No, I could have I could have
never have that issue again. Yeah, this is it. You recovered nicely. I mean, that'd be some quick audio edits. The video is would be a little harder, but some quick audio edits, and you'd never even know. Yeah.
So, all right.
All right, live folks.
Yep.
Peace.
See ya. Where is the end button? Finish. There we go. More balloons.